I'm finally back with my little fossil project. It's been a few days. I haven't felt very well. I'm having a big autoimmune flare-up, and I'm just over the hump with it. And we've also been having heat alerts and ozone action days, and it's just not been a great week for me. But I finally got everything together, and I'm ready to actually do my soldering and assembling of this project and get it finished. So I've done my taping and burnishing. Burnishing just means flattening your tape down, getting a really good seal, and use a bone folder for that. This is just the copper foil tape, and the bone folder is this little tool here, and you just use it to burnish down your tape once you've stuck it on. I had intended to put a sheet of copper foil on the back, but I'm all out of my copper foil tape sheet. I used it all up in a previous project, and the stained glass store near my house, closest to my house, doesn't carry the copper foil sheet. They only carry the different kinds of tape. They could have ordered it from me, but I could have ordered it just as easily myself. I decided I'm going to try it without it. It should work just fine. I put a tiny little bezel edge around that's not really very visible. I'm not going to bother patinaing it, I don't think. I think it'll be fine with the silver. And as you can tell, it's not very visible once it's all on. The necklace is going to hang like this. This is my top center right here. Now, where did my cord go? There's my cord. Instead of having it hang like this with a finding like a bail at the top, I'm going to have it hang like this, I think. All right, with two loops on the back. A, I like the way that looks. B, it's gonna be more support for this really heavy stone. So what I'm going to do, my little dish of findings, I just found what I had in my findings box. I didn't even bother going out and buying anything. I just wanted to try to use what I had. I found this chain with these flattened links, and what I'm going to do is take 2 links off and just spot solder them shut. And then what I'm going to do is solder one here and one here and run my cord through it. And then I'm going to just use these little, I call them cord crimps. I guess that's the proper term for them. This little finding here. So what I'm going to do is use a Sharpie marker and kind of cover up the core of the leather cord, put a little dot of glue there, probably like E6000, and then crimp this shut, and that should hold just fine. And then for the clasp to attach it, I have just an oversized lobster claw clasp in this ring. Normally these rings are used with a T-bar for the other half, but I thought it was a good size, good and easy to hold. So it'd be easy to put on and off, and if my husband needs to help me put the necklace on and off, he has rheumatoid arthritis that has seriously affected his hands, so he doesn't have a lot of dexterity in his hands, so it's easier for him to use large clasps, so that way he won't have any trouble if he helps me. I think this is a good length. I measured it, especially when it's going to have this on, it's another inch. Just in case it's too short, and I don't think it will be, but just in case it is, I went ahead and got a little piece of chain out and an extra clasp to make an extender, and then I would just measure how much chain I needed and make a little extender. Like I said, I don't think I'm going to need it, but just in case, I went ahead and got it out now so I'd have it out. And those are my findings. Onto my tools, what I'm going to do to do this project. First of all, I need a soldering iron, and I just use a craft store soldering iron for these projects that use stones and microscope slides and things like that, because I really haven't needed anymore. That's what I learned when I took a class learning how to do this. We just used really inexpensive craft grade soldering irons. I think our soldering irons were maybe like 10 bucks, and I got this one at Hobby Lobby. It works great. This works with stained glass, works with these little jewelry pieces. I've never had a problem with it. As long as I tin my tip, it stays fine. I've used this quite a few times, and it's a pretty good one. It's your good basic entry level soldering iron for these kind of craft projects. And you know, I've got a stand for it with a little tray. You put your wet little sponge there to clean off your soldering tip. As far as what kind of solder and flux I use, this is an old acid-free, non-toxic flux from when I took the first class. It doesn't really go bad, and so I just have been using it over and over again. So I just have my flux, and then for solder, I just use basic lead-free solder like you would use for stained glass projects. Again, I got this at the craft store. Little goes such a long way. I mean, for this project, I'm probably only going to use about that much, to be honest. Maybe a little bit more, but no more than a couple inches, I don't think. So, you know, with solder, it may cost a little bit up front to get a big spool, but you're probably not going to need to replace it anytime soon. Interesting little tool. I took a clothespin and flipped the spring around so that the big end was the pincher. When you go to solder anything that's stone or glass, it's going to conduct the heat, and it's going to get really hot, and you can't hold it with your fingertips. It's going to burn your fingertips. So you really need something to grab your piece with and hold it so that you can work with it without burning your fingertips. I didn't want to use a metal clip because I was afraid it might scratch this. So these are perfect. And for smaller things like microscope slides, you can just use it regularly. But as you can see, this is just too heavy and thick. So flipping it around seems to work just fine. And then another little tool that's kind of useful is a third hand. And this is useful for any kind of jewelry and small craft assembly work, to be honest. It's a weighted base with all kinds of little arms that adjust in every way with little clips. I also have a magnifying glass that can go on here, and it's exactly what I say when I say a third hand. You know, you can clip something onto it and use your two hands to work. And then you can also, you know, clip two things. I've used this many a time to clip two pieces together and then just be able to solder them. So it's very, very useful to have these, and these are really easy to find. I'm sure they have them at craft stores and hardware stores, but I got this at Harbor Freight, and I know I spent less than $10 on it. It was probably more like $6, and you can get them in different sizes too. But yeah, this is your basic little third hand. So I've got that. I've got my polishing cloth to polish everything. Got my basic little tools for working with the findings. Oh yeah, this is awesome. I've got some little readers, magnifying readers that they're kind of dim now because I've been using them a lot, but they've got a light. So that really helps with little tiny work, and also helps when I do my manicures because my eyesight's not great anymore. Last tool is more of a safety tool. It's a Cambridge mask, and even though I use non-toxic acid-free flux and lead-free solder, there's still vapors that are released when you're soldering. In this room, I really can't ventilate, so I need to have something to protect from breathing in the fumes. I tend to have lung issues, and any kind of pollution really messes with my breathing. And I have one of these Cambridge masks for when we have ozone alert days. It really helps with that. So I like to use it when I'm doing soldering, when I'm working with epoxies, when I'm working with a lot of different paints and adhesives. anything that could possibly irritate my lungs. I always wear my little Cambridge mask. I could probably get away with using the little cheap disposable masks from the hardware store, but because I do use this on ozone action days, I wanted something comfortable, and it works for crafts just as well as general lung protection. So that's it. And I think I am going to try to get this done. I'm not going to show you guys how I'm doing it. Maybe do a tiny little video of some of the soldering, but it takes a while, and y'all can see soldering videos everywhere on YouTube. So I'm going to go ahead and start working on the project and see what I can do tonight. And I will show you guys the finished project when it's done. Okay, so I'm just going to show you guys just a tiny bit of soldering. Like I said, I haven't done this in a while, so I'm just trying to get your basic, oh, shoot, see, I haven't done this in a while. And it was going to be just me scrambling around. I've done the back edge, so I'm just trying to do the side now. So what you do, it's just super simple. You paint your flux, and you can see how it's kind of darkening the copper. That's just a reaction from the flux. And you just, oh my gosh, can you guys see what I'm doing here? You pick up a little bead of solder, right? And you take it, and that's it. That's all you do. And the solder will stick anywhere that you've painted flux. And this isn't a very skilled application of solder. Like I said, it's been a long time since I've done this. I was afraid to do stuff like this after my stroke because I was afraid of burning myself, burning the house down, you know, causing some kind of serious drama. And so this is the first time I've done any kind of soldering like this in probably 3 years, 4 years. But, you know, if somebody with brain damage who hasn't done this in years can just pick it up and do it like this, any of you guys can do this. It's so simple, and there's so many good tutorials on YouTube. So anyway, I thought I'd just show you guys just to kind of prove, yes, I actually did this. So I'm going to reposition my safety pin, a clothespin, do the last little bit of the bezel. And yeah, that doesn't clash with the color of the metallic and the pyrite. That's fine. I don't need to patina this at all. I just need to polish it up and clean off the extra flux when I'm done, and it'll be fine. So I'm going to go ahead and try to finish this up and show you guys what it looks like when I'm done. So I've got it done. As you can see, I've got my 2 little loops. I've got the piece soldered. It's not great. It's a little bit of a sloppy job, but it's good enough. It'll work. Yeah, I'm gonna go clean off the extra flux and get it polished up a little bit, and then finish reassembling it. And y'all don't want to know how long it took to attach those 2 loops, but it took a bit. So I'll show you the finished project in a minute. Okay, I am back and I am done. So yeah, it worked out exactly as I wanted it to. I got the 2 loops on the back. I got my cord through them. That's kind of how it hangs. You can see on the front, it worked out exactly as I wanted it to. I ended up not needing to do an extender. It's the perfect length, so I got the right length of leather cord. So it came out about as good as I expected it to. I did a quick cleanup, cleaned the flux off, and polished it a little bit with a polish cloth. Just had a little metal polishing cloth. I'm probably going to go back and give it a really good high polish with a buffing wheel on my Dremel, and on the metal. There's some areas where the solder is a little bloppy, but for someone who hasn't done this in a few years and who has issues with dexterity and vision, I'd say I managed to do a pretty good job with it. So it came out about as good as I had hoped it could. And yeah, so that was the project. Super simple. Just took a little bit of copper foil tape, some findings, some solder, all craft store. Everything I used on it came from a craft store. So this is something that's really accessible and easy, and if you want to learn how to do this kind of thing, there are a ton of tutorials on YouTube. Just look up, if you really want to learn how to do the taping and soldering, I'd start by looking up microscope slide pendants and soldered pendants, and that'll show you some really good techniques. So hope you enjoyed watching my little project come together, and I'm looking forward to wearing it. It actually looks pretty cool. I'm gonna put a little picture in so you guys can see. So I'll see you guys later.